Hello friends, welcome to CEC Live Lectures. Dear friends, today in this session we are going to talk on one of the most important as well as an interesting topic too. Friends, our topic of discussion for today is educating life skills to adolescents. And for the discussion on the topic, we have with us in our studios Dr. Renu Tomar. Dr. Renu Tomar is, I would like to inform you all, is a renowned, I would say, a faculty who has almost 17 years of experience, including both academics as well as teaching. She is Assistant Registrar in Guru Gobind Singh IP University, and she is a prolific faculty, I would say, who believes in giving best to the students. So let's welcome our guest, Dr. Renu Tomar, and let's try to understand today's topic in detail. Hello ma'am, welcome to the lecture.
Thank you, Geetika. As Geetika has already told you that today we are going to discuss educating life skills to adolescent. I will like to begin with quoting Gabriela Mistral. As Gabriela has stated that we are guilty of many errors and many faults, but our worst crime is abandoning the children, neglecting the foundation of life. Many of the things we need can wait, the children cannot. Right now is the time, his bones are being formed, his blood is being made, and his senses are being developed. To him, we cannot answer tomorrow. His name is today. In today's session, we will like to discuss adolescence as a stage, key issues related to adolescence, and our role as adults, as parents and as teachers in strengthening our young teenagers into independent, confident and successful adults. Adolescence is a vital stage of growth and development. It marks the period of transition from childhood to adulthood. It is characterized by rapid physiological changes and psychological maturation. It is a period of development. It is characterized, as I have already stated, it is characterized by rapid physiological and psychological maturation. So, adolescence matures cognitively and mentally becomes more analytical. So, the result is that the adolescent presently is capable of thinking in abstract manner, and he is also forming independent ideologies. These are truly the formative years. These are the years marked by creativity, idealism, spirit of adventure and buoyancy. They are also the years of experimentation. They are also the years in which the professional as well as the personal choices are being made. So, on the negative side, we can say that adolescence is the stage when the child gives up to the negative peer pressure. So, this is a very decisive phase in the life of any individual. Particularly when it comes to sexuality, the adolescents are experimenting and being influenced by their peers. There are chances that they may not be able to achieve to their best as they are capable of. So, we can say that adolescence is indeed a turning point in one's life, marked with increased potential along with greater vulnerability. So, as adults, what is our role? Our role is to attend to their potential in such a manner that we are helping them to deal with the vulnerability and able to achieve the best of their potential. To understand adolescence further, we should be dealing with the key issues of adolescent stage. Let us try to explore certain key issues. The first key issue which we are going to explore is developing an identity. Lack of information and skill prevents adolescents from effectively exploring their potential and achieving sound career. Let us try to unravel the concept related to identity and how is it formed. Identity formation is also known as individuation. To quote Erik Erikson, we would say that identity crisis is an important phase in the life of any individual for achieving the identity. As Erikson has stated that identity versus confusion is an important phase of adolescent life. According to Erikson, for gaining the identity, adolescent has to answer the questions like, who am I? Where am I going? These are the important challenges which are being faced by adolescent during that particular phase. Another academician or researcher we must talk about is James Marcia. James Marcia theorized a sense of commitment to life goals, value and sense of crisis being essential to develop an identity. By sense of crisis, what we mean is that the adolescent would be actively questioning and exploring options which are essential to develop an identity. James Marcia has provided certain phases of adolescence, and those phases should be read as phases, not as stages. So, they have to be understood as to find out that whether the independent, the individual, the adolescent is being able to achieve the identity or not. So, these are the phases which an adult should be able to understand, as well as make or help the teenager to understand these phases. The phases which have been pointed out by Marcia are identity diffusion. What is identity diffusion? In case of identity diffusion, the adolescent stage is marked by rudderless apathy. This means that in this, adolescent is setting a life course as well as evading identity. This is basically marked by social and psychological problems. In identity diffusion, the teen is not ready to understand, is not ready to accept his way to achieve the identity. Second phase which Marcia has pointed out is identity foreclosure. This phase is marked by premature commitment to identity. Usually premature commitment to identity is as the parents tell the child. Most of the time it is seen that the adolescent will take whatever is being informed to him by the parents as his mode of identity. That is not usually the acceptance. It is not to be read as an acceptance. In fact, it is to be read as avoidance to struggle to find out his way to identity formation, his caliber, his wish to take into cognizance new experiences. So, this phase is to be read as a phase which is marked by anxieties and conformity. Third phase which Marcia has pointed out is identity moratorium. What is identity moratorium? This is marked with delaying commitment to experiment. It is usually associated with self-doubt and confusion. During this phase, the teenage would be not sure of himself and he would be depending upon others to support him so that he can come to certain decisions. So, this is an important phase where the teen requires support of adults around him. The fourth and the most important phase, and which may also be read as a turning point in the life of any individual, is identity achievement. This is marked by strong commitment to any particular lifestyle or any particular ideal, but that is not usually set in stone. That means the teenager might change, but he would be sure of himself that this is how he wants to be and this is how he perceives himself to be as an adult. This means that teen has arrived at a sense of self-achievement. His self-esteem is high. His motivation as well as understanding of himself is on the higher level, intimacy, the issues related to intimacy are also in place, and he is very much aware of the way to reach his secure and strong adulthood. So, these are the phases which have been pointed out Marcia as the phases of identity development, and we should not forget that these are the phases, they are not stages. That means it is not that these phases will be one after the another. It is not going to be so that identity diffusion is going to be followed by foreclosure, and foreclosure is going to be followed by identity moratorium. It is very much possible that one phase may come before the other, like identity foreclosure may come before the identity diffusion. Similarly, identity moratorium may be the first phase and the identity diffusion might be the third phase. Second issue which we need to understand in case of adolescents is managing emotions. Why do we need to understand managing emotions? Because adolescence as a stage is different from the childhood in a way that adolescent has usually very strong mood swings. There are feelings of anger, sadness, happiness, fear, shame, guilt, and they are very much aroused by emotional intensity by very small issues. How can an adult help the adolescent as to deal with the emotions? What kind of role can an adult as a parent or as a teacher play as to equip the adolescent for managing emotions? First strategy which we need to understand as well as which we need to master as to help adolescent is being an empathetic listener. By being empathetic listener means that we should not be critical in our discussion with the teenager. We should be listening him more rather than telling him more. Most of the time the kind of a mistake what we make is that we are usually speaking our mind. We are not listening to the experiences of the teenager, and that usually results in their becoming closed and they are not sharing their life and experiences with the adults. So, we have to become empathetic listening, and it is seen that quite a time by being just an empathetic listener, we can resolve very many issues related to adolescence. Another strategy which we need to understand for helping the adolescent is making them realize that sharing feeling is a strength. The problem usually adolescents face during this during stage is that he is vulnerable and he wants to portray himself as a strong young man or woman. So, whenever he or she is feeling weak, he or she takes it as a weakness and he doesn't want to talk about it, because that way he sees that his personality or his perception of his personality is going down. So, just by making the adolescent realize that sharing feeling is not weakness, but it is strength of a person, we might be able to help them becoming more open and more happy person. So, the first strategy which we talked about was empathetic listener. Second strategy which we talked about was that we should be strengthening the adolescent for sharing feelings. Third, which is very important and very critical, is making them realize that feelings are informative. What do we understand by feelings are informative? Adolescent has to understand that feelings are usually telling them about the experiences which are backing that feeling. For example, if the adolescent is angry, there has to be reason for that anger, and adolescent has to understand or unravel that reason for the anger rather than taking hasty decisions in anger. What are the reasons for the anger? What are the reasons for the feeling? anger is usually result of some displeasure, or because we see that somebody has tried or some situation has been which is against our value system, which is against our perception, which is against what we wanted to do or what we liked. So, that has to be understood by the adolescent. He has to understand that if he is feeling frustrated, then what is the reason for being frustrated? Why do we feel frustrated? We are frustrated because there are certain kind of blockage in our way to achieve certain goals. If we are happy, why are we happy? We are happy because there is some kind of a satisfaction of our need. So, that provides us happiness. So, this way adolescent has to understand what are the reasons for different feelings. If he is able to realize that the feelings are informative and he is able to come down to the information which the feelings are sharing with him or her, he would be able to come to the right decision. So, what we have to teach the adolescent is that he or she has to think with the mind, not with the heart. He or she has to understand that the decision is a judgment which has to be taken after understanding the rationale or the reason for certain feelings. Every feeling has the reason for it. May it be the joy, may it be the love, may it be the hate. So, that reason has to be understood, and after understanding that reason, he or she would be able to develop into a more mature individual and more decisive and strong personality. So, this is something as an adult we should be helping him do. Another, the fourth strategy which we would be talking is that making adolescent realize that emotions can be misleading. Usually the emotions, may it be the anger, may it be the love, may it be the happiness, they may not really take the individual or the adolescent to the appropriate decision. So, as we talked before, that the hasty decision is always a wrong decision. This is something which adolescent has to realize. How do we make them realize these things? To make them realize, we don't have to lecture the adolescent. We have to live with them. That means we have to become open, we have to share, and there should be a we factor, not you factor and I factor. Whenever we are saying that you did this thing wrong and you did this thing right, so in a way we are leaving the adolescent alone to tackle his issues, his emotions. This is where we go wrong, and this is where the things go out of the hands. So, it's very important that we realize that adolescent should always feel that he is not alone. He always have somebody as an adult to guide him, to understand him and be with him in unraveling the reasons for the emotions as well as understanding those emotions. Second issue which we need to cover as adolescents face is building relationship. Building relationship is an important part of growing up, and usually it is seen that when the adolescent is growing up, he is building different kind of relationship. One has to understand that adolescent is on one hand learning to perceive, assess and manage their own emotions. On the other hand, they are engaged in building their capacity in relating to others. So, to build healthy relationship, communication and intimacy skills are very important which are needed on the part of the adolescent to build relationship. Apart from that, we need to understand that adolescent is also working upon the individual characteristics. He is trying to understand his emotional behavior as well as unravel it. He is also trying to self-regulate. Then there are issues related with self-confidence and empathy. Adolescent at this stage redefines his or her relationship and also redefines his or her identity. Till the adolescent is in the middle school, he or she is looking towards his parents as a primary source of identity. But as soon as the adolescent enters his teens, he begins to look at peers as a secondary source of identity. So it is very important that the peers which adolescent is keeping up the company with, they are not just the positive people but also productive. So if the adolescent is moving with negative peer group, so the effect of that would be disastrous. We also need to understand that by creating barricade in building relationship with the peers, we will not be helping adolescents, rather we would be creating a rebel out of him or not giving him enough experiences and exposure to become a independent individual. So what we need is that adolescent should be equipped with certain characteristics for building relationship. What are those central characteristics? Those characteristics are the adolescent is not capable of selecting his own her peer. So this is something we need to teach him. Apart from that, we need to set up certain boundaries which will help him or her to make relationship. So to build the authentic relationship with the young people, what we need is that the young people should be given a rationally corrective experience. So those few skills which as an adults we require to give them rationally corrective experience are: first, be a good listener. As we previously also talked about, that usually what happens is that adults, we are very bad listeners, and most of the time because we think that we have the experience and we are in a better off position, so we are usually lecturing them what they should be doing, and that usually results in adolescent becoming close to us and not sharing their lives with us. So we have to be more open, we have to be more listening. To become a better listener, what we can do is that we can be more questioning in the reflective sense, questioning in the positive sense, not in the critical sense. Whenever we are questioning adolescents critically, then usually we get the worst kind of answer, not the answers which will help the adolescents or us to help them. So we have to be good listener, and this is something which we adults have to develop to become good listener. And let us conclude, let us accept the fact that most of us are very bad listeners. Second is showing our human side. By showing our human side, what I mean is that we should be becoming more open to the adolescent, because of the fact that we think that most of our experiences or our being open might be manipulated by the adolescent. We remain close and we really don't talk about our human side. So it is very important that we show our human side, only then we can have the authentic relationship with the adolescent. To create an authentic relationship, we should be talking about our real issues, also talking about our life, so that the adolescent realize that if he is going through certain problems, then even we could have, and we might also be going through certain problems, and we are as human as they are. So they are not different from the adults with whom they are living. But before sharing our issues or showing our human side, one question we should always make to ourselves, that is that whatever side we are showing to them, is it in their benefit? If it is in the benefit of the youngsters or teenagers, only then we should be talking about that. Otherwise, we should be evading sharing that those issues or human side with them. Another strategy we should be taking for becoming a better adult and making our adolescent more mature as an adult is set boundaries. To make adults trustworthy, reliable and safe in the relationship, it is very important that we set boundaries. Setting boundaries is itself not so easy. The reason being, first of all, we have to understand and accept that how and where the boundaries are to be set, and then only we can make the adolescent accept those boundaries. The fourth strategy, which is also very important, understanding resistance of adolescent. It is usually seen that whenever we are taking certain exercises or talk with adolescent, they would either sound bored, not interested, not participative, questioning, being humorous. So that is usually taken by the adults personally, and whenever we take that personally, that means that we have stopped being mature, we have stopped understanding the resistance of the adolescents, and thereby we have closed the doors of making authentic and safe relationship with the adolescent. So it is very important that we are very patient with them, and we understand that the resistance of adolescent is not personal, but rather because that is the phase of life they are going through. Only then we can become the better adult, and we can become the better guide to the adolescent. The fifth but not least important is the basic counseling skill. Whatever profession we might be, we have to understand that there are certain counseling skills which we will need our adolescent on our part to become better guide to the adolescent. So the basic counseling skill which we all of us must be having is putting open-ended questions to them, so that we can put them in a reflective mode, not in the negative or the critical mode. For example, a high school student has failed in an examination and the student is in the depressive mode. Rather than making the child think that he has done something wrong and making him more depressed and sad, we should be putting positive and open-ended question that whether he wants to give it another shot, and if you really want to give another shot to the high school examination, what more can he add from his side? How he can improve his competency to be better performer for the second time. So thereby the chances are there the adolescent may start rethinking, reflect upon the real issue rather than acting emotional or being carried away by his emotions. The sixth and the most important point is practicing self-care. As it is usually said that help yourself before helping others. This means that if we are ourselves burnt out, then we would not be able to provide a positive and a good example to the teenager. And let us accept the fact that the children are better than us as far as observing ourselves is concerned. So it is very important that we are ourselves confident, we are taking good care of our emotional, physical and mental self. Only then we would be able to provide support to the adolescent. So So, first of all, help ourselves become strong and then become a pillar of strength to the adolescent.
With this note, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much for giving us this energetic and motivating session. Dear friends, there is a lot more for you. You're requested to be with us as we are back after a short break, and we are going to give you more tips and we are going to discuss more. Keep watching us. Thank you. Hello friends, welcome back to this session. Friends, as you know that today we are talking on educating life skills to adolescents. In our previous session we discussed a lot and we tried to discover various ways through which the life skills could be taught to the adolescents. Friends, as promised, here we are again to teach you more on the topic, and for the discussion on the topic we have with us in our studios Dr. Renu Tomar. Dr. Renu Tomar is Assistant Registrar in Guru Gobind Singh IP University. So let's welcome our guest Dr. Renu Tomar once again, and let's carry forward the lecture. Hello ma'am, welcome back.
Thank you, Geetika. So till now we have covered certain issues of adolescence, and continuing with the same key issues of adolescence. Now we were talking about the building relationship. Now we should be talking about the peer, how we should be able to help the adolescents as to resist the peer. Peer pressure is often seen as negative, but peer pressure can also be positive. So, what we need to find out is that what kind of peer company the adolescent is keeping, and apart from that, we also need to equip the adolescent not to yield to the pressures and negative experimentations which peer group at times is pressurizing him or her. So, resisting peers is an important issue. So, how to help the adolescents for resisting peers? First is, for helping adolescents, we have to be anticipative. What do we mean by being anticipative? By being anticipative means that we should be able to understand that what adolescent is, what kind of group the adolescent is moving with. We should also be able to realize that how that peer group is affecting the behavior of that adolescent. So, for being anticipative, what we need is very close observation, and apart from that, another important thing is that a very close supervision. It is usually seen that when there is less supervision in the case of adolescent, the chances of adolescent not really gaining on his potential are high. So, we need to understand that for helping the adolescent to gain his potential and becoming more productive and self-confident individual, what we need is that we should be anticipative, as well as we should be supervisory in the sense that we should be able to understand that our being there would always be a strong factor, would always be a controlling factor in positive manner to the adolescent. Second way to help the adolescent in dealing with peers is being attentive. Being attentive also means that it's more or less same as being anticipative. It also means that we see very closely if there are some kind of a change in the behavior of adolescent. We should be there and then check that, as well as take the steps as to control. At times it is seen that when we give adolescents a free hand, the result is they go wayward. So, being attentive is very important aspect for helping adolescents. Third important step for resisting peers is choosing concession. What is choosing concession? At times it is seen that we say no to everything whatever the adolescent asks for, or we say yes to whatever the adolescent asks for. Both are wrong. So, we have to choose concessions accordingly. For example, if the teen just want to go for shopping for certain brands just to gain more acceptance in the peer group, then what is wrong in that? So, buying certain brands just to help him to gain the acceptance amongst his peer is something we should be giving concession to. But allowing a 14-year child or 15-year child going alone with their friends at night, driving, is something we should never accept. So, we have to choose concessions as per the need of the age as well as the phase through which the adolescent is going. So, concessions have to be chosen very wisely and participatively. By participatively, what I mean is that just by imposing that this is right and this is wrong, we would be harming the adolescent and we will be making him more closed. Rather, what we want in life, we want our adolescents to be open to us. So, we have to participatively decide that these are the concessions which are available to him or her, and these are the concessions to which there is completely no. Another important aspect is have expectations. It is usually said that having expectations is not good for our own self, but having expectations from adolescent is always good for them. Whenever we have expectations from the adolescent and we keep on sharing those expectations from the adolescent, that helps them to decide what is wrong and right in life. That helps them to check themselves out as well as keep themselves in control. So, having expectations, providing them structured experiences and becoming open with them is a very important step which we should be taking, so that the adolescents learn to resist negative peer pressure and select positive peers as to get the best out of his potential. Fifth, which is very important in a way, practice more. As we said, practice more means that the adolescent should be practicing how to deal with the negative peer pressure, and that he should be doing with the help of adults. For that, we can have the role plays or just our life experiences. Sharing our life experiences with the adolescents might help them to practice more. By providing them role play to situations like the teens pressurizing him, the friends pressurizing him to go for alcohol, what the adolescent can be taught to resist this thing by saying that if he drinks, then the parents are going to ground him. He or she can resist by saying that he has a game tomorrow, and for that game it is very important that he doesn't take to alcohol. So, if he practices with the adults these kind of things, he would be more equipped to resist the peers. So, we should be very open to them, and we should be talking that by practicing more through role play mode, we would be strengthening him to resist the peer pressure. Sixth point is keeping them busy. Keeping them busy means providing them positive peer group, providing them productive experiences, making them engage in productive and positive extracurricular activities where they are learning in the company of positive peers, where they would be able to gain more as well as understand that the peers can be positive as well as they can help them to be more productive and gain more confidence and individuality. So, keeping them busy is another important aspect for helping adolescent for resisting negative peers. It is often seen that when the adolescent is busy in extracurricular activities or sports, they usually do not take to negative activities, they do not usually take to negative peer pressure. So, this is one of the very important strategy which we as an adults should be using to help adolescent understand how to resist peers. Seventh, the strategy to help the adolescents to deal with peers is we should try privileges to accountability. To tie privileges to accountability means that the teenage is being provided certain privileges or concessions if he or she behave accountably. If we allow a child, a teen, to go out with his friends, then we should say that he or she has to be back by 7. So, this kind of accountability would make him more responsible, would make him more understanding as well as more mature. So, tying privileges to accountability is an important aspect which we as an adult should be doing, must be doing for making them more mature as well as helping them resisting negative peers. Another key issue which we need to deal with whenever we are talking of adolescence is how adolescents acquire information on different issues. By information on different issues, what we mean is that there are media, there are mixed messages from the world which left adolescents with many unanswered questions, and the result is that adolescent doesn't know what to choose and what not to choose. And because of the fact that there is a widened gap of communication between adolescents and parents, this results in his or her taking to quacks or wrong information which he or she usually gets from the peer, practicing them and getting in trouble. So, what we need is that we should not feel inhibited. We should discuss issues frankly and sensitively with the adolescents, rather so that they feel secure enough and they feel that they can trust the adults around them to seek information regarding the issues like sexual problems, RTIs and STIs. RTIs and STIs, reproductive tract infections, and STIs, sexually transmitted infections. So, it is usually seen that because of the fear and hesitations which adolescents are facing while they are growing up, they often fall prey to quacks and they go in a wrong way, experiment with the wrong things, leading to further problems. It is also seen that when they do catch the problems, they don't know how to deal with those problems, what kind of medical help they should be taking up. They don't know that how they can improve themselves, how can they improve their health status. So, it is a lack of information which results in the problems which usually adolescents face. How do we communicate or negotiate the safer life situations with them? It is seen that for communicating and negotiating the safer life situation, the adolescent should be knowing himself or herself sexually. That means the physiological understanding of his or her body should be complete. Apart from that, he or she should also be knowing the kind of a hormonal changes whatsoever he or she is facing. They are natural and normal. He or she should also be knowing that in case they are pushed by peer group or because of their own attractions to certain negativity, how they should be dealing with. Sexual intimation, we should acknowledge, is a huge problem when it comes to adolescents. So, usually it is seen that the girls face mental and emotional problems related to early sexual initiation, and there is vulnerability to drugs abuse, violence, conflict with laws and society. So, the adolescent should be able to understand how to resist the vulnerability to drugs, abuse, violence and laws. How would be adolescent be equipped as to resist the vulnerability to drug abuse, violence and conflict with the law? For that, he or she should be communicating with us, and apart from that, he or she should be mentally equipped how to deal with those issues. It is seen that more than 50% of the adolescents are facing the problems related to sexual issues. In fact, the 30% of the burden due to HIV and AIDS is in the age group of 15 to 24. So, keeping all these statistics in mind, we should understand that adolescent is the stage where they should understand the issues like contraception. They should also understand the issues like safe sex. Apart from that, they should also be talked to about the issues if they face related to their emotional problems due to the sexual intimacy, how to deal with them. They should be introduced to ways as to deal with the problems faced due to the sexual intimacy. For example, like if they know that the problems which they are facing or the attractions which they are facing, they are normal, and how can they deal with it from the health perspective as well as from the psychological perspective, they will be better equipped. Going for long walk, physical exercises, these are some of the things which help the adolescents to control as well as to channelize their energy in a proper manner. Apart from that, if we see to it that the supervision of the adolescent is complete in a way that whenever the adolescents are engaging in some kind of activity, they should be in the supervision of the adults. So, sending adolescents to certain homes or certain places where they are not in the supervision is completely wrong. That has to be taken in mind by the adults. Apart from that, we should be seeing that there are issues in the case of girls particularly, which we need to understand as well as notice. It is often seen that particularly in the rural India, the girls are married early, and because they have no information regarding contraception and they have 0% literacy, the result is that most of the teens who are married, they become mothers and die, or they have the child in very poor health. So, keeping these things in mind, we should be educating our adolescent how to deal with the issues. These issues are not just the personal or individual, they are very much a social issues. So, we as a social responsible citizen, as adults, as parents, as people who want the adolescent to grow up into the more strong independent individuals, we should be looking into those issues, analyzing them and helping them. So, increasing literacy level is not only just the way, but it is also needed that we add sexual education in our curriculum as a core component or as part of the science. Apart from that, non-formally also we should be equipping the adolescent as to become better as far as dealing with the sexual issues is concerned. So, how can we make them? By exchanging or sharing information related to how to deal with STIs, RTIs, HIV or contraception issues or safe sex. So, this way we should be equipping them as to avoid the problems or health issues due to these problems. Another important thing which is seen is that the mothers in the age group of 15 to 18, usually the mortality rate is at the higher side. That means there are more deaths as far as the mothers and children in this age group are concerned in comparison to the mothers in the age of 25 to 39. So, educating about family planning, educating about the gap between the two children. Contraception is very important. This provide them an edge as far as having a family, becoming a responsible parent is concerned. This also provide them an edge as to live their life in a healthy mode. Another important aspect we should be not overlooking when it comes to adolescent is drug abuse and violence. How do we deal with drug abuse and violence? It is usually seen that when a child is not getting any kind of affection by the adults around him, the child engage in drug abuse. So, the two important aspects are there. One is the supervision. Another is that the child feels comfortable and is able to share with the adults around them. If the child is comfortable and is able to share with the adults around them, then the issues will be at the lower side. This is also one of the reasons why we have number of rape cases, because the adolescents are not equipped as to understand their own sexuality, and they are not equipped as to respect the other people socially. So, the result is that there are sexual abuses, there are molestation, there are increase in rape cases. A study on child labor in India has reported that 53% of boys and 43% of girls faced one form or the other of sexual abuse. So, that shows that our education system or we as an adult are not really doing our duty for equipping our teenagers to becoming more sexually strong, becoming more sexually informed. So, we have to become more open, as well as we have to do the duty in the structural and strategic manner. So, the aspects which we have covered in these two things are that we should be negotiating and communicating about the safer life situation in context of sexual education, in context of their emotional problems, as well as the health issues. The adolescent should also be knowing that in case of food, what kind of food would be better for them. So, in the health education, this is also a core component which has to be taught or shared with the adolescent, that the food has to be balanced as well as good, because it is usually seen that because of the worm infection also there are quite health issues which adolescents face. So, having good food as well as having the hygienic food is important, which should be informed as well as made them practice through role play or through making them participate in activities which will make them understand why these issues are important and how they can deal with it. To summarize, we can say that adolescence is a phase which is marked by transition from childhood to adulthood, dependence to independence, sexually dormant to sexually active. It is a period of identity searching and role confusion. It is a time for achievement, deciding profession as well as developing personality. It is a very important phase of life. So, because the adolescent is usually looking for immediate gratification and is usually not concerned about the consequences of his actions. So, it becomes our duty to be there on a positive note and help them strategically to become mature adults as well as utilize their energy which is at the maximum to attain maximum of their potential.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much for giving us this productive session. Friends, you are requested to write to us at info.cec@nic.in if you have any queries or if you wish to give your feedback for this particular lecture. We are going to meet again very soon and would be discussing more on this topic. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again.